What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, and today's big news is that Jorginho has signed a one-year contract extension to keep him at Arsenal until the summer of 2025. Now, it's fair to say that when Jorginho was signed by Arsenal in the last day of the transfer window, January 2023, it wasn't exactly one that fans were jumping up and down about. He wasn't necessarily somebody we'd wanted to see in. That transfer window, of course, we'd been linked endlessly with Mykhailo Mudryk. That deal looked done, only to be gazumped by Chelsea. And then we also saw our efforts to sign Moises Caicedo from Brighton end with them sticking to the fact that they didn't want to sell him for around 70 million. Good business from Brighton, because when they did sell him, they made 40 million more. But it felt a little bit like we just couldn't get over the line on the transfers we wanted. Now, obviously, hindsight is a wonderful thing. And looking back on it, I think most of us are pleased that we got Leandro Trossard instead of Mykhailo Mudryk. And now perhaps we also feel similarly about Jorginho as compared to Moises Caicedo, who hasn't had a very good first season at Chelsea. Although, look, he's got bags of potential. He's a great player. And certainly one for the future. And you can't really say that about Jorginho. A lot was made of the fact that Jorginho was past his best. And look, for most Arsenal fans, signing older players from Chelsea has not really worked out well. I liked Peter Cech. I think we all did, but we never saw the best of him. Willian was an unmitigated disaster. And, well, David Luiz, I really liked him, but my God, he had a mistake or two in him and never really looked comfortable at just centre-back. Although you have to say, different times at Arsenal. Signing a player like Jorginho from Chelsea is always going to draw the kind of Chelsea pensioners tag. This is where they come to retire. But I thought that was unfair. And the first video I did on this channel was actually talking about how I thought he was a solid and sensible signing because he brings experience. He's an undoubtedly good defensive midfielder, even if his legs aren't there. But if you have a young squad like ours, you do need some more dependable, solid, experienced heads in there. And I thought he represented that really well. I think that's kind of been proven right. He had that wonderful assist for an Emi Martinez own goal when we played Aston Villa and managed to snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat. And over time, he's really kind of come in and been solid for us when he's been asked to. This season, of course, he started on the bench, but with Thomas Partey's injury and Declan Rice taking up that six, it wasn't clear where he fit into everything. Then there was a game where Declan Rice couldn't play away to Brentford, and we saw just how good Jorginho can be when called upon. He played an outstanding game. We won the game 1-0, but then again, when Declan Rice was back, he dropped out. Where we really saw Jorginho at his best, really quite surprisingly, he played against Crystal Palace when we got back from Dubai, played fairly well, but it was the game against Liverpool where, to many people's surprise, Jorginho was thrown in. And with Jorginho, what you get is a player who can control the tempo of a game and the mood of a game. So many times last season we played on our nerves, it was over-emotional, we were chasing where we should have been controlling. And a player like Jorginho gives you that ability to... He's kind of the metronome in the midfield. He gets the ball and moves it on really quickly. And every good team has a player like that in him. One that has a really good idea of where everyone is on the pitch. And of course, him playing alongside Declan Rice and Odegaard in midfield has allowed Declan Rice further licence. But there are questions. There are questions around this Jorginho extension. It hasn't always been clear that he was going to be offered one. In December, it looked like they were going to finally offer him a contract, and then they didn't. And then since then, there's been increasing speculation, I think largely driven by his agents, that he might be travelling abroad, that he might be going abroad. And so look, why have they announced this today? Why is it happening today? And what does it mean in the midfield? Does this have some implication for Thomas Partey? Now, Thomas Partey has played the last 3 games and done really well. And many of us are looking at that thinking what might have been if Thomas Partey had been fit all season. But is Thomas Partey a player that you could really expect to go an entire season fit? Perhaps. I mean, he is only 30, still 2 years younger than Jorginho, and perhaps his injury problems are behind him. I was really surprised recently when Arteta was asked about Thomas Partey and saying that he needs him, he wants him and he wants to keep him. So is Thomas Partey somebody who isn't after all going to be leaving this summer? And here's one of the big questions. If you have Jorginho, if you have Thomas Partey, I'm assuming El Neni is going to move on this summer, but Does this mean that the much talked about transfer of Martin Zubimendi might not be happening? What about Onana at Everton? He was another one that was very much talked about coming in. We've been linked with Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa as well. Does keeping Jorginho suggest that we might not be looking to augment that? Well, I'm not sure, actually, because I think one of the key reasons we've signed Jorginho is that he's a great player called upon when needed. He is probably, but his greater import might well be that he is one of the leaders in the dressing room, a player that other players can look up to, a player who's very liked and very popular. I've heard many people saying that that's not good enough reason to offer someone a contract extension. Takes us back to when El Neni, though injured, was given a year's extension. Holding has stayed longer than might have been expected given his raw ability, based on the fact that he was really popular in the dressing room. But when you're building a kind of family like Arteta is doing and has, I think, successfully done, then these things all add up. And it was great to hear Jorginho talking about why he was happy to stay at Arsenal, why he felt really welcomed there by the fans and the other players. And I think that offers us a certain continuity. I'm not sure he will be playing as many games next season as he did this season. I don't think he was expected to play as many as he did this season, except for the fact that Thomas Partey was injured. But I think it's fair to say, along with Kai Havertz, it might be the sign of us turning corner and signing players from Chelsea. Although that said, there aren't any others in that squad at the moment that I would be jumping for. So, Jorginho, let me know what you think. Are you happy that he signed a contract extension? Why do you think we've signed him? I have to also say, though, that when I first saw the headline that Arsenal player signs new contract, I'm really happy Jorginho has done it, but he wasn't necessarily the one I was looking to. We still don't have any firm news on Amorio Cozier-Dubry, amongst interest from Newcastle, among others, in signing our Hale End Academy prospect player, I think. Well, Jack Wilshere recently came out and said he could be the next Bukayo Saka. I think he is a huge talent. I enjoy watching him in the under-21s, and I would love to see him get a chance. Of course, I've said this many times before, I would really like to see Mikel Arteta hand young players an opportunity, and along with Raul Walters, their contracts are coming up at the end of the season. Hopefully we can get more news of that. But the other thing was that this is a strange period in our season. This is a strange time to be an Arsenal fan because we are in the eye of the storm at the moment. There are 2 games left in the Premier League. By the time we take on Manchester United, Manchester City will most likely have beaten Fulham away to go 2 points above us. And then the pressure will be on. I know we're playing Banter Club. We're playing a team managed by Ten Hag, who in every press conference I see him in at the moment looks like he's taken a blow to the head. We ought to really win that game at Old Trafford, but if we watch Man City demolish Fulham, we also know that there's only 2 more games that they can slip up in, and one of those is to Tottenham away. Admittedly, a ground they've had very little success in. It does involve travelling south. I know Pep Guardiola always talks about how difficult it is to come down. But in all likelihood, look, despite the Tottenham fans asking their team, some of them asking their team to throw the game, I don't think they need to. Even if their lives depended on it, I don't see this Spurs team taking 3 points or even holding Man City to a draw. How I hope I'm wrong. But this is a really quiet and a really odd time because I think after the games against West Ham and Fulham in December, the mood amongst Arsenal fans was so bad. And really, you can't have asked for more from the team since they came back from Dubai. 16 games played, 1 draw, 1 defeat. If we do win our remaining 2 games, then that's 18 games with 1 draw and 1 defeat, and we still don't win the league. What more can you ask? And so I think a lot of us kind of feel like we're happy. We couldn't have asked for much more from this team, and if Man City do go on and win the league, it's just because they're Man City and they are the mentality monsters. They have won 4 in a row. All of that, it will be true. And at the moment, I feel nothing but there's positivity. There's calmness around Arsenal fans. I think that'll dissipate as the kick-off at 4:30 on Sunday. I know I'll be nervous. But let's say we get a couple of quick goals there and we do go ahead and win it. Takes it to the last day of the season, and it's been so long since we got to the last day of the season with something to play for, or hope for at least. Could West Ham, with David Moyes' last game in charge, go to the Etihad and pull off some sort of miracle draw? No, I don't think so. But I do feel happy with the way we've played. I do feel happy with how we've gone about our business. And although I've kind of avoided talking about transfers and ins or outs before the end of this season, because I think this isn't the time for that, there is this opportunity in summer to strengthen yet further. And for all of the people who told us last season that if we didn't win the league, we'd never get a chance as good again, this season has been a better chance. Man City, for all that they are likeliest to win the league, haven't won it yet. There's still 3 games to go for them. And they've done less well than they did last season and the season before. And they are on some sort of decline. And their own contract issues. Pep Guardiola still hasn't signed a contract extension. I've said this before. I'm praying that he's waiting for after the Euros to take over from Gareth Southgate, because that would be a dream come true. Pep Guardiola managing England. And that would give us a fantastic run at the Premier League, because I don't see us dropping off. I think we have strengthened, and I think there is a continuity about keeping players like Jorginho and Thomas Partey, if Arteta is to be believed. So, Jorginho stays another year. How do you feel about it? I'm really happy about it. I've always liked Jorginho. I think he's exactly the sort of player that a squad needs. He's worn the captain's armband. He's there when we need him. He's a clutch player. He never loses his head, and I just like him. And I hope you do too. But let me know in the comments if you're a bit disappointed. So, I'll do another video tomorrow previewing the match against Manchester United. Until I see you then, be lucky. Lots of love.